Today we're going to take a look at replacing the canister purge solenoid on this Honda Accord with a 3.5 liter engine. Now it's relatively accessible here. We're looking at the driver's side top of the engine. And so first things first, I'm going to simply take a pliers and release the clamps here on these hoses. Now there's several places it's attached, so whichever one might be easiest, most accessible for right now. And so this one here was pretty easy to get at. I'm going to try and twist it back and forth and get it broken free so we can ultimately get it off the vehicle here. And after years of being baked on this thing, it's a little stuck there. So we'll give it a little bit of coaxing, but we got it removed there. And then down below there's a filter, so I'll do the same thing. Release the clamp, get it slid up. I'm going to twist it a little bit back and forth. Then I just need to take my ratchet with a 10mm socket, and there's two bolts, or two nuts rather, holding this bracket to the intake. So I'm going to remove the entire bracket assembly and get it up on the bench where it's a little bit easier to get the screws out, and then we'll swap the solenoid off that bracket. Also, we just have one little electrical connector here, so I'll pinch that, release it, and I'll finish getting these off, and then we'll do the transfer. Okay, well, now that I've got the unit off the vehicle, you can see it's just a little more accessible. So again, I'm going to take the pliers, release this clamp, got the whole hose off there. So at this point it might be easier just to swap it right over to the new one, slide it in place, and then I'm going to also remove the other hose, twist that off, and set that aside a second. And then there's just two screws here, and I'm going to use a Phillips screwdriver to remove them. Now this is where it's nice to actually have this off the vehicle. You know, in some cases these things get kind of bound up, and you might even have to use a vice grips or something to get these off. So now I'm going to remove these. I will transfer the unit over to the bracket, put my new hose on, and continue with the reassembly process. Okay, I've transferred it over to the bracket here. I've kind of reassembled things back in place. Got the nuts finger tight here. I'm going to make my electrical connection, plug it in. Now I will go back and reinstall these clamps. You know, if there's any damage on these hoses, now is a great time to replace these vacuum hoses here and get everything sealed up. Now I'm going to take my ratchet and socket and tighten the nuts in place. It's also important to note that if you're doing anything with the evap system here, especially when it comes to the canister purge solenoid, it's a good idea to make sure that this isn't the result of a faulty canister itself. Maybe the insides came apart, or there's something else wrong with the evap system. So it's a good idea to make sure there's no additional debris in the system. Once everything's all in place here, it's time to clear any trouble codes, rerun the self-test, make sure everything's actuated properly, and just like that, you see how to replace the canister purge solenoid on this Honda Accord with a 3.5 liter engine.